Hey guys, I'm back with another viewer roster review, and I think today is probably one of the most interesting roster reviews I've had so far because it's not really taking a look at an account and helping them kind of optimize their characters or optimize their roster. It really is more around like advising this person. What character should I play? What should I main? I'm in this situation right now. What do you think I should do? What's the most efficient? What's the best for me? It's really kind of like a consulting session in any ways. So I wanted to share that to you guys today on YouTube because I thought it was just something very fun to watch and hopefully you'll learn something. As always, we do these roster reviews on my stream for our viewers. All you need to do is come on to the channel and spend some channel points and boom, there we go. I'll do a roster review for you. I stream every single night on twitch.tv/MisoxShiru starting at 10 p.m. PST and also on weekends on Saturdays, Sundays. I'll usually play one day out of the weekend a little bit earlier around like 2 to 3 p.m. PST and start my stream then. So hopefully I'll see y'all on my stream, but if not, hopefully I see you guys on the next video. All right, guys, enjoy. So what you want for today is basically for me to look at your account and like help you out because you're kind of in a place where you have main, but you're not like super happy with your main, right? Yo,
Yeah,
dang it,
essentially,
Skip.
so like my main, I'm an
All right,
REDB,
see you in a
right?
bit, Ken.
And RE, especially in Pug or like just RE requires you to have really good synergies to really perform at its peak, as well as just, I mean, also I have a bricked elixir situation here, but
Oh,
essentially I have critical at 40 set. My master is bricked. I'm currently bricked on master with at 39. So I'm running critical right now, my DD, which really hurts. If I don't have double crits maybe. Yeah. It is my most invested character though. And I've been debating, and it's possible because with this engraving setup, all I need to do, I could convert myself to Surge. So all I would need to do is get Surge 3 or
12.
Surge 3 Adrenaline 5.
And
I don't
Surge
need
12
6.
book. Yep.
Exactly. And I have all the books ready. Like that's long been done. Like all I have to do is swap this accessory and I can just go for Surge. The gem wise, that's fine too. I actually have an alt Surge Blade as well where I'll be sharing most of these gems anyways. So I can swap in between the two builds on my main, so it's not a problem. But I'm just so I mean I'm not at 1630 yet. Juicing this weapon right now as well as trying to push armor. Transcendence is decent. Got a bit on each of them, but I just don't know if I enjoy DB right now. I mean, I play both, right? I play both RE and Surge.
Oh, he's got critical 40
more, but
that's a Zylo.
I also like RE in its own sense in that it has a lot of utility that you can add to it in a fight, but it's just harder to play. Also, like, I mean, I've invested quite a bit into this character, like just to upgrade full ancient for 5/3+1. This costed me somewhere like 400k because this rock just would not cut a 7. It was not fun. And obviously, obviously, end goal is still to try and upgrade these to 10s. That's still in the works. But that's my main right now, and I still like to play it, but I debated switching like multiple times, especially after the rework. So I do have like a lot of endgame characters currently. So my current like rating roster of 6. So that's my main. And this is technically my second main on my Reaper.
And so how do you feel about Surge though? Do you like Surge?
I do like Surge. The only problem is like Surge is really more so hit or miss, right? Like if you don't crit on your Surge, it just absolutely sucks. And I guess that's probably have a DB, right? Like DB, regardless which spec you go, regardless if you have master or critical, if you don't crit, a lot of your damage, like your DPS goes down significantly if you don't crit like consistently. So
yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like what Moon's saying. It's kind of like all spec classes in a way, but Surge is just like that to like an extreme level because basically almost all of your damage is within Surge. So I feel that.
Yeah, but that's what like I was debating honestly. I mean, from the beginning when this game started, I actually played a little bit in KR when Reaper was released and got a taste of unreleased Reaper.
Wow, what a beater! This guy's such a beater.
And so honestly, my Reaper has a lot
Jeez, look at that! It's even more better gem than your main.
This is exactly, and I was actually with the Reaper rework. I was actually debating main swapping a long time ago. This is not the
Mm-hmm.
full. This is not the newest for our build. I should have two. I should have a CD on Silent Range instead of Glowing Brand. But because I also have a Hunger Reaper, I'm going to keep this gem and reroll them later.
Yep.
But I've been debating swapping Reaper because especially when I play Lunar,
Mm-hmm.
this class is not crit dependent at all. Because with the Lunar Engraving, you get so much crit rate,
Mm-hmm.
and I run. Pretty sure purples already have 35 cent. Like that's and they're
Yeah,
like
and you
pretty
have like a
decent
crit
35 cents.
necklace and all that, and you have a crit
Exactly, I'm crit
bracelet as
spec.
well.
Yeah. So like that this upgrading this to 40 set is not hard. I would just have to push it to 1620, which really isn't too hard on this
Yeah,
character.
no.
Especially because I have all the gems here. But my problem with this character is I want to go 5/3+1 at least. But the problem is there is no like Lunar Voice 3 accessories on the market. Like that's the thing that's like there's just not enough people playing Reapers, not enough Lunar stuff on the market. So that's what's stopping me from
Hmm.
pushing this character right now. Also because like Lunar, like I was struggling with this character week one problem. Damn mine. Like gate three, I was dying left and right unless I took defense feast, which is why like I would like to play Reaper, but trying to bring this character like into prog is just rough.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like my next juiced character. And then like for other characters I
Would
have,
do you have a hunger build available?
no, this is my alt Reaper. My alt Reaper's hunger.
I see, I see.
So the 1605 Reaper's hunger, but it's bricked on elixirs
Sheesh.
right now. I'm still working on elixirs there. So this one I
Because
pushed with the latest day of mine prog
because
testing.
my Reaper friends, they all went hunger for Prague.
Right.
Because like you said, I mean, Reaper is extremely squishy, and Lunar in itself is a harder spec to play. Hunger is much easier, much more straightforward, and you can focus a lot more on just like DPSing and the boss's mechanics as opposed to having to focus on your character itself as much in the meter. So I'm just thinking like if you're one of your issues with Hunger or like Reaper itself with Prog, it might be worth just like at one of these days building a hunger build on it just so you can prog with it. But if you have that's going to be extra money, different things, extra money, extra time invested, holding you back from pushing it further up because you are potentially thinking about main swapping. So it's kind of up to you if you want to do that, but that's like an option that I can think about because like one of your concerns, it sounds like, about like fully diving into main swapping is like, well, with Prague, it sounds like it's going to be really tough for me to play Reaper. But maybe if you had a hunger build on the side, it might be a little bit easier on you when you're doing your Prague. That way, when you're kind of trying to learn the fight as you go, it's going to be a lot more easy for you to dodge attacks and focus on the boss's mechanics. And then when you start getting comfortable, that's when you can kind of just swap over to Lunar. And then also that'll kind of give you a little bit of power boost as well because it'll, I think Lunar is stronger. And as a result, you're going to be able to push through phases faster and things like that. So
Mhm.
it's an option.
Right. So I mean, I thought about that option. That's honestly why I decided to push this alt Reaper up. Because I was thinking like I already had so much like accessory wise, like I could buy a new set of accessories, but I honestly, I mean, for me personally, I doubled up on pretty much all the assassin classes except Shadowhunter, just so I have one of each spec. So for DB, I have my main's RE, I have an alt Surge Blade. For Reapers, I have both Hunger and Lunar. For my Soul Eater, my main Soul Eater is Full Moon. The alt one is not built, but it's Night's Edge. That could be built later down the road. But I pretty much was thinking like if I really wanted to prog, I could prog with this alt Reaper because honestly, I can just move over the tens, right? Like these are sevens that I can upgrade later. The rest I can just replace, like move the tens over. It's 5/3+1, decent qualities on them. So I could just push this up and have that be part of my main roster because and because like otherwise I'm like saving a lot of costs on gems. That was like my main consideration. Like finalizing my final roster is to try and save as much on gems as possible.
But if you want to prog with your alt Reaper, you're gonna have to push your alt Reaper up to your mains level and have basically two mains at that point, right?
Well, I mean, I don't. I mean, ultimately, end goal is to like. I mean, that's like why I want to like finalize like the final six, right? Like, I think this DB is gonna stay final six, whether or not
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be turned into or like have a surge build ready to go. I don't know, but I think for me right now, I think both Reapers are going to be in there. The Surge Blade is
Okay.
going to be in there. I think my Bard I'm going to keep in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like I don't know what to fill in with the rest. I think Soul Eater actually I felt most comfortable progging on DPS with Soul Eater.
Yeah.
Planning on upgrading the gems to tens as soon as we'll have like a bunch of nines and tens on there right now.
Hmm.
Summoner, I was also debating upgrading. This was a character, so
I mean, yeah, this
it's strong.
character kind of busted right now.
It's strong, but like compared to the rest of my current like gold earning six, it's currently the lowest eye level in there. But it has a lot of investment into it. And I think the main reason why I want to push it is because it's a
What's up,
hitmaster
J-Ra?
class where
Thank
like I
you, thank you,
especially find
thank
with
you.
day in mind, hitmaster benefits. Like I mean, it's just so much easier to prog with hitmaster. So I was
Hmm.
wondering, like, maybe I could just juice this character out because I have like a pretty decent build on it too once this lows or whatever.
So you're basically at a point where you're like, I don't know which character to juice up to kind of main status. Whether you should keep your DB as
Exactly.
your main, or you should like juice up like one of these alts and make it your new main per se.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of
Because
it really just has to do with like prog, and that's kind of like your main concern.
right, especially because I know, like, I mean, Kazaros is endgame, right? Like, and I know, like, I'm currently not at hard mode Theamine, but considering my DB, my main right now, it's either top two DPS or bottom two DPS, dependent on patterns, dependent on whether I crit, dependent on things that are out of my control. So I'd like to have a character that's more in my control of how I can perform more consistently. And DB just feels super inconsistent right now, which definitely is a hands issue. Like I could definitely just, get better hands, get better at it, which I'm trying to do. But it's just like when like Reaper, extremely consistent class. Summoner, extremely consistent class. Soul Eater just pumps regardless. So I'm just like, do I just push my main to 1630,
We're also
farm
reviewing
with
Maiko,
Transcendence while I work on these
Forever,
alts
Fire,
and
and
get them to
SNSD.
1620 and above? Or do I just keep juicing the main at this point?
I mean, do it sounds like you're not really enjoying your current main that much, right?
It's like a hit or miss, right? Like I think Voltus Gate 3, I enjoy DB a lot. Voltus Gate 2, Voltus Gate 4, not really. Theamine, G1, G2, well, like G1 sucks for every entropy.
Mm-hmm.
G2 is like hit or miss. And G3, I just don't like for entropy. I mean, I like it when people are clashing for them. Like when there's
Agree.
clashes going, I can burst pretty hard, but otherwise throughout the fight, it's like pretty booty cheeks.
So here's the thing, right? And this is what I'm thinking in my mind as well, now that I'm thinking about it. So it sounds like you enjoy the class, but the fights themselves are what is making you not enjoy it. And like, of course, being like the crit RNG and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So with our next two raids, Echidna and Behemoth, both of them are supposed to be very tricksy and dummy like. So it seems like for those fights, classes like DB, classes that are like entropy, classes that require positioning, it seems like they're going to be having a very good time. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about that for the next two raids. Of course, the thing that's not going to change is the dependency on crits, right? But like you said, potentially you could go Master's Elixir, and when you get that, that'll fix that, or at least alleviate some of that stress there. It's not going to be there completely gone, but it's going to be alleviating it. So for that, I think, it sounds like your struggles and your kind of, I guess, hesitations with the class should be getting better as time goes on. Now, granted, I'm not saying that you should just stick with your DB for sure. Like at the end of the day, that's kind of your choice. But from what I'm hearing, that seems to be like what's holding you back. And if we think about what's coming in the future, it should be getting better for your DB going forward. Now,
Okay, that's fair enough.
yeah. And what I'm also thinking is that with every class, like it kind of like every single spec class is going to have that struggle with like crits and stuff like that, except for maybe like Lunar, right? Like you said, it's a little bit less dependent on it, but a lot of other classes, even like Summoner, right? I think Summoner is pretty dependent on it, like hitting its crits and can struggle with that sometimes without crit synergy, right?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much like that. I feel like the only class that really in my roster doesn't depend on Chris Sanctuary right now is the Lunar Reaper. Hunger, because I'm going pretty much Bullion Park Swift build, like high Swift, very
Mm-hmm.
reliant on crit. My Soul Eater is Nightmare, heavily reliant on crit. If I don't have two crit synergies, I'm pretty much like
Are
not
you
critting at all whatsoever.
full moon?
Full moon, yeah.
Okay. And what's your 6 golden?
Uh, So right now it's DB, two Reapers, Bard, Summoner, Soul Eater.
Okay, okay, okay.
So I've already dropped a few people from my Gold Earning roster. Like this Gunslinger's dropped, Glaive dropped. They're both sitting. So this is sitting on Event Gems with one level 9 damage. This is full sevens. Just in, like I leave them just to farm leap stones from tree.
I mean, do
And
you need
then
level
I
nines on them to farm tree?
well the Glaive just has one damage 9, and I can't
I
be
mean,
bothered
that
with
could go
it.
somewhere else for sure.
That could, yeah, I could. I mean, I'll say I'd leave it there just in case like Glaive gets fixed to a point where I like playing it again. But as of now, I'm just like I'm tired of charge up skill backtackers. Like I just don't want to play that anymore. And then I have a lot of other characters. So I mean, I currently rate on more than just 6. Gun Lancer was recently pushed. I have a Red Lancer build and a Princess build on it, gems and everything all included. So this,
Man,
I'm actually planning on pushing a Gun Lancer.
man,
Like
you're
replacing
pushing so
something
many
in this.
characters. I thought I was
I mean,
bad. I thought I
I
was
have 30,
bad.
I have 30 characters, and this is
Well, I mean, I have like
like
20 something characters too, but a lot of them are like, they've been benched since the history of time.
yeah, no, I actually actively do play through all of these, at least try to do their dailies. But I'm pretty much in a situation
Sheesh.
where, I mean, essentially, I want a full rating roster of at least 10 characters. So I have my, if I set my gold earning 6, and then I'm trying to figure out what else to push. So I think I'm trying to like see what would make sense here. Like, I think cost effective wise, Gun Lancer obviously is going to be up there. Breaker, I'm still figuring out what to do here. I rolled a 98 quality a con weapon on it the other day, so I'm like,
Ooh.
should probably do something about that. But obviously, I have to buy accessories and stuff for it. I haven't done that yet, and it's Sura, which I really like the play style of it, but I'm still figuring out what to do with it right now.
Moon.
I do also want to. I mean, would it make sense for me to push out my Surge Blade? Essentially, because I share gems with my main already, I might as well just.
I
Does it make sense to
mean,
push that up?
I, if you're talking about like gold efficiency, I don't think it really makes that much sense because you're not making gold off of it, right? So you're just gonna be losing gold unless you bring it into your main 6. So if you're talking about making sense in terms of gold efficiency, it probably doesn't make sense. But if you want to have a Surge Blade up that you can play at end game, like sure, do it. But it's just not gonna be like gold efficient because you're not gonna be earning money on it unless you're a bussing man. Unless you're the type of person that
Yeah,
busses
I
a
was
lot,
actually. I
then
do
that
bust
makes
quite a decent
sense.
amount. So yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
So if,
honestly, my main can bust quite a bit. Pretty much I do bust on the main and the Reaper.
mhm.
Those two I bust pretty much because it's the art right now.
Yeah, like if you're gonna be bussing, pushing multiple characters up that require like the same exact gems pretty much, that is going to be a good investment because you're going to be bussing just brings in so much gold, right? And then you don't have to invest a new set of gems into it. You already have the engravings built out on it, right? So in
Yeah,
that case, it's not the worst thing to push it up for sure. But Maple's also saying like you can already bus on it as well. It just depends on like what you're bussing, right? But
yeah, yeah.
if you want to push it up and like you're gonna continue busing on it and like pushing higher and higher busing, then I don't think it's the worst investment out there. Like it does make sense, but you know when it comes to like your main and like what you want to do with it, it's definitely gonna be like more of like a side project.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I've had a few friends. Like, I mean, I've also just gone into Trixion, tested like my Surge Blade before Elixirs and Transcendence almost was out DPSing my main. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, that's Surge. I mean, Surge was broken. Surge, I think Surge is still broken.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like, maybe on my main I can just have 2 builds ready to go. I
I
could have my
think
Surge
in
build and my Ari
general,
build.
most people for their mains should just have both builds. If it's for a main, both builds makes a lot of sense just because you can have the flexibility of it and just like change according to the raid and things like that. But also I when you're talking about it, there's nothing against you, but if I mean maybe it is, but if you're saying like your Surge Blade is what did you say your Surge Blade was like doing a lot like getting close to your mains DPS at the time?
Pretty much, yeah. Like if we just look at it just parse wise in Trixion, it was almost doing the same thing. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of iffy. Like, because your surge blade is what? Are you talking about right now? Like
Oh
those
no,
two
no, I said pre elixir, pre
oh,
transcendence.
pre elixir, pre transcendence, and
Yeah,
what
no,
item
my,
level
my
were
main
they?
still does more now, obviously, because I have so much more
Yeah.
investment. I mean,
Okay.
40
Okay.
set
Okay.
versus no set is like night and day difference. Like,
Yeah.
no,
So I'm
there's
like,
no way.
wait a second. That sounds very weird.
Yeah, no, no.
Um.
It's if that was the case, I literally have no hands to play Ari.
Yeah, and so I mean, I just think at the end of the day, like for your main, it does make sense to have both builds just because
Uh-huh.
it's flexibility. And in the grand scheme of things, like you said, it doesn't cost much. It's not going to cost you pretty much anything to build your main into Surge, and you could even throw in
Yeah,
a
and I just
relic
have to
accessory
just
in
get an
there too.
accessory.
Yeah, you don't even
Yeah,
need to get
exactly.
an ancient.
It's just awkward right now because I have a very specific negative I'm looking for, and it has to be like a plus. It can't be like more than +2, otherwise I will have a negative line on there because of just how brick my accessories are for it. So
Hmm.
unless like I upgrade the accessories to get less malices, I have to buy like a certain like relic accessory. So I've been like checking the market every single day looking for
Negative
one.
defense.
So if I find
I
one, I'll just
mean,
buy it and swap it.
if if it ends up being like too tough to just swap one, it might not be the worst thing to just swap two. I don't know. I don't know how much some of your like what your malices look like and like how like what's the mouse that this shares, right?
Yeah,
Attack
pretty much I
reduction.
have to go attack power reduction because everything else is already
Mm,
built up.
yeah.
And like, yeah, because this thing is attack power, so I kind of. I mean, I these are not like the best qualities out there. Obviously, I could upgrade them to better. Like
Mm-hmm.
especially the necklace, I feel like this could use an upgrade, but obviously, given the lines on there, it's not that cheap to get. And if I'm just
Mm-hmm.
looking at relics, what is it?
I mean, it's better, sir. Should I make Punisher build
Right,
two?
like
If
these
you're
are
at
not
end game, I think
actually.
it makes
Yeah, like
sense.
these are all the malices that don't work with me right now.
And if you
So
have
I'm either
extra
waiting for
money,
something. Like I've been running hard brow on hard brow 1-2 on my surge blade just
yeah,
to
and you have
try
the
and
yeah the
get
gems too. True.
like more chances to get accessories and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So you've been running what hard brow?
No, sorry, not hard brow, normal brow.
Normal brow? Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
to get the accessories. I mean, it wouldn't be like you said, your accessories aren't like super high. Like it's not like the highest quality ever. So maybe if there is an opportunity for you to even like maybe upgrade one accessory, like you can upgrade one accessory plus change out the surge and RE. Like that could
Mhm.
also work. It doesn't have to like at the end of the day, you don't have to like pigeonhole yourself into just like, oh, I really need an attack malice on this one because of my accessory here. Like you could find another one that's like, oh, attack speed, but then you can change out one of your other attack speed malices into like, yeah, you can like flip flop them basically.
Yeah, like I'm pretty
So,
sure I can find like something that doesn't have attack speed 3 here potentially.
well, I mean that's
This
a
is
100 quality though, so
well, I mean, this I dropped myself, so like I'm just gonna use it. So I didn't have to buy it. That's why like I tried building. I pretty much built around this accessory when I
hmm
upgraded relics or upgraded ancients, and everything else I pretty much had to buy. This
yeah,
was this one cost me quite a bit
yeah,
because
I'm sure that's 98 quality. That's
yeah,
pretty nice.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, especially for if you're gonna run Surge as your secondary, your secondary engraving build, it doesn't have to be the nicest either. I mean, it's up to you at the end of the day, but it's those are just all things to consider when trying to build out a character. Like, especially with our limited market here on NA West, it's when you're building out a character, it really is about flexibility if you want to build it
Mhm.
quickly. Of course, if you don't care about that, you can wait, sit here, and just like try to snipe the right one. But if you want to build it like, sooner rather than later, flexibility and trying to like work things around, it's like, well, if I buy this one, it'll cost this, but if I change these two, it'll cost the same thing, like things like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, and also just I don't know, like my. I know it sounds kind of like a flex and brag, but pretty much in my main roster of I guess my highest 8 characters, my DB and my Bard are the only 2 characters without circular.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's been bothering me too. Like this bracelet isn't bad. I actually like I rolled pretty well on this one,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's
it could
okay.
be
It's
better.
fine. It could be better. You're right. It could be,
Yeah,
a better ambush is good. It's fine, but it's not like the best thing out there. And it could be like two
and it's a
lines,
pretty low
right?
roll
So,
ambush as well. So
yeah. So it can be improved for sure, but I don't think it's like a priority by any means. You could just kind of get that when you kind of find them.
gotcha, gotcha. And then I was considering on pushing, I guess, because I don't have a fully rounded out 10 roster of at least 10 characters yet. I
To
was looking
end
into
game.
actually like pushing one more character to end game, and right now it's a debate between my SO War Dancer, uh, Destroyer,
Uh-huh.
that's Rage Hammer Destroyer, Drizzle Arrow,
Uh-huh.
or my Paladin. My
Okay.
gut instinct says Paladin is the right choice to help out, because I'll pretty much in my whole DPS roster I have one support at endgame,
Yeah.
and that's not even like full endgame right now. So I think, especially with Paladin getting like that tenacity and godsend, I'm actually very tempted to push this up.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you suggest out of those?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like what you want to play. It's hard to say like what I suggest because like personally, like for me, my preference for classes are probably different from yours, right? But if you're talking about on paper, like what's the best class of like what's the best bang for your buck? Of course, it's probably gonna be Paladin, right? You don't have to really gear it that much, and you'll be able to take it into end game raids. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I think about when I'm thinking about pushing up characters, especially because it's like a it's gonna be a non-goldener probably for a good bit. Like that probably makes the most sense to me. But
Mhm.
what are the other classes? It was Destroyer. It
Rage
was
Hammer Destroyer, SO War Dancer, and Drizzle
Mhm.
Arrow. They all have at least level 7 gems, 5x3.
Damn. Okay. I mean, the other it's like either Pally or War Dancer is probably what I'd go because
Mhm.
Pally, of course, support, great support, getting us a buff soon. War Dancer, SO War Dancer, one of the strongest classes out there, one of the most flexible, one of the most, you know, best synergies in the game. Like those two are going to be good characters to push up for sure. And War Dancer, I think, is going to be a lower. How many damage gems is it? Is it five or
Sounds like
four?
5, I think. Sounds or
It's like
oh, it's
it's like
4. It's
four
just our
spender, four
spenders.
spender. So yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
that's not like terrible in terms of DPS, right? Like for the number of damage gems you have.
Yeah.
So in terms of DPS, I think War Dancer probably to me is what I'd push up. And then if it's a support, it of course it's your Paladin because you're the only other support. But for those reasons that I just listed, they're both very going to be very good assets to any party. And also, I think War Dancer to me seems very fun to play. But at the end of the day, like it's just pushing characters that you enjoy, right? Because a
Yeah.
big part
I
of this
mean,
game
and
is
honestly, it's like, and honestly, this is like the hard part because I do have like one of every class because I do drone playing every single class in this game. It's more so just I am a meta chaser at the end of the day, so I do like playing whatever is strongest. Hence why
yeah,
there's the Soul Eater got pushed out of nowhere,
yeah,
the Glaive got pushed out of nowhere, and like the Hunger Reaper got like there is
yeah,
part of meta chasing in there and whatnot, but I do want something that's like consistent and strong at end game.
yeah.
Yeah.
War Dancer has been very strong for such a long time. It's been strong for. I'm trying to think back. Like it's been strong since Monkey came out. Issa War
Pretty
Dancer has been
much,
strong
yeah.
since Monkey came out.
And it's like
So
it's one of the only other, I think, what, like there's only
I'm not a meta
three
chaser,
classes in this game
guys.
to have double like synergies, of which War Dancer is one of them.
Yeah. So if you're being a meta chaser, I think War Dancer probably makes the most sense. And again, Pally is going to be meta no matter what, pretty much. Like it's a support, it's always going to be meta. So, and it's only getting better with the changes. So both of them are going to be the best choice. It just depends on the end of the day. Do you want to push up a support or do you want to push up a DPS?
And so at this point, I guess just like short-term goals. I mean, obviously, I think the goal is to get my main. I still think it makes sense to get my main to 1630, just so I can get like Heart Day Mine out the way, progged, get the titles I need. Um, should I just, I guess, should I just focus on just trying honing to 1630 and then letting everything sit for now where they are? Because nothing's I don't really get gate kept on any of my characters. Just
Mm-hmm.
letting them sit for now, farming up resources while I just own my main, or should I try and bring like any of the alts? Like, should I guess the better question, TLDR, is it the DB to 1630 or the bar to 1620 first right now? What should be more priority?
I mean, let's see. So Bard, realistically, Bard to 1620, all it really gives you is access to Echidna week one, right? And
Right.
that's really the only thing that's gonna get you like it's gonna that's gonna be really the only bump up because like technically you can still like work on your elixirs and stuff like that with normal Voltus. Um, if I like, and this is again just like what matters to you, like and the question that looms in my head is like like do you really want to do Theamine hard? Like, is that like your goal? If that's your goal, then the fastest path to that goal is going to be pushing up your DB to 1630. But if you don't
Mhm.
care about that much, then you could push up your Bard and then push up your DB with like to Theamine to 1630 when you're done with your Bard, or wait until Echidna comes out and then push it up then. But if you want to do it before Echidna, do it ASAP, of course, then just push your DB. The other thing I'm thinking about
Gotcha.
is like, of course, I mentioned the whole thing about like when Echidna comes out and when Behemoth comes out, your main's gonna be more and more enjoyable. But at the end of the day, it's like it does seem like you are a little bit like hesitant. Like, is this still enjoyable to me? So I think it's like first kind of answering that question for yourself. Like, would I regret it if I pushed my main to 1630? Would I regret it if I locked in this character as my main? If your answer is no, then sure, push it up. But if you still have regrets about it, think about why you're having those regrets and like, would pushing another character up kind of solve those and like, make you regret it less. So at the end of the day, it's like that's kind of like where I would go next. Like, really just before you push your main, think about, is this really the character that I want to be taking to 1630? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be the character you're going to be playing the spending the most money on and things like that. And you
Yeah, it's kind of a sunk cost fallacy for me now though, because this character, this DB was 1600 when a con came out. So I
Mhm.
was hard con ready week one with 25 weapon. And then my luck ran out once a con came out. I've pitied pretty much pitied 19 or no. So the 25 automatic transfers are 20. I 99% on 21, pity 22, pity 23. 24 luckily was 20% artisan, but that like I think starting with that like topping weapon on my main like just really disillusioned my love for DB still because this character was straight up getting unlucky while this Reaper went from 1580 to 6 where it is now with a lot of like luck taps. The Bard also as well was super unlucky. Like I pitied half of my armor pieces getting it to 1600. And so that's why like these two characters I do like and I invested quite a bit on them. It's more so just I just feel like they're RNG cursed, which was like another reason why like I've been disillusioned with them compared to like my other characters.
I wouldn't let RNG like kind of influence what class you play because like RNG comes and goes. It's luck is called luck for a reason, right? It can come one day and then the next day just disappear. So it just push characters based on what you actually feel about them in terms of playing them. If you enjoy playing them, do you look forward to running raids on them every week? Do you like which characters are you like kind of gravitating towards first, like running on every week? And is it because of recency bias? Like for me, definitely, when a new character comes out and I'm playing it and it's feeling good, I'm like, damn, I want to main this character. I want to main swap this
Yeah,
character. And
that's
then like,
definitely a breaker right now.
yeah, and it's like a month later, it's like, oh, well, actually, I didn't actually like that class that much. It was just, it kind of hit at the time, and it was something new, right? But when I go back to it, it's kind of like when people are like, "Yo, just drop your striker, drop your striker." It seems like you're enjoying Breaker so much. It's like, well, at the moment, I'm enjoying Breaker, but at the end of the day, I know I'm gonna crawl back to my striker. So that's kind of like for me why I never drop
Mhm.
my main because that's what I enjoy playing the most. At the end of the day, all through all this time, through the years, whatever it may be. So it's kind of like, is DB that class for you? Is DB that class where you're like every every now and then that new girl on the block comes on in and you're like, ooh, all right, it's looking good, and then after a couple weeks you're like, all right, I crawl back to my main. Is that you, or do you think like, no, this is true love, this is I stopped, I fell out of love with my DB, this new character is the one for me? Like it depends on, like,
Yeah,
is that the
I
case for
like,
you?
and so my guildmates, my guildies all know this. Like, I'll complain about my main all the time. Be like, I'm gonna main swap like Reaper. I'm gonna main swap like Summer. I'm gonna main swap. They're like, dude, like you keep saying you want to main swap, but you spent so much on your main. Like, also my main does have +4 Esther, so like that's why I said it's like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Like this main has had a lot of resources invested into it. Um, so that's why like I don't think it makes sense to drop it at all for my gold ring roster
Oh yeah,
whatsoever.
I don't think
And
you're
I
gonna
should really
drop
be
it from
around.
gold earning. I just think it's more like which character you want to be the character that you're gonna be progging the latest raids on.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, you did put money into it, but I think the worst thing to do in any game is like being trapped to playing a character and stuck playing a character that you don't enjoy just because you spent a lot of money on it. It's kind of those people that end up playing like gacha games for like forever, and they're like, they're like, I don't like this game anymore. This game sucks, whatever. But then they still log in every day because they're like, oh, I've spent like hundreds of like thousands of tens of $1,000s on this game, and if I give up on it, I'm losing all that money. It's more. Here's the way that I think of it, like. And that's the thing, right? When you spend money on a character, when you spend money on a game, you have to know that eventually that character, that game might not be the character for you anymore, might not be the game for you anymore. But the thing is, the money that, and this is a thought that goes through my head every time I spend money on a game. Will I regret spending this money later down the line? Even if I drop this character, even if I do whatever on it. If the answer is no, sure, spend money on it. If the answer is yes, I'm going to regret it later if I drop it or do whatever, like then I don't spend the money on it. It's you've spent the money on it, you've spent a good bit of time on it, and you get the value of your money from the time that you invested into it. And that's how I think
Mhm.
about it. So again, each person's different. It might be the case for you that you don't want to think about it that way, but for me, the way I enjoy games and how I enjoy games for a long time is that I don't trap myself into a certain way of thinking just because I spent a lot of money on it. Because if you're stuck playing that character and you don't like it, and then you're it's just because you spent money on it, then you're gonna have a miserable time. But the other thing is also later down the line, maybe DB might get changed again or whatever, right? And then you might enjoy it again. It's especially in Lost Ark and most MMOs, classes get buffed, nerfed. One day your class might get nerfed, the next day it might get buffed. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and that like I try to be like meta resilient by having like different characters at like different
If I
eye
get
levels, but I
hit by a
realize that's
bus
just
tomorrow,
too
do
much
I want to
investment
down to
and
21 or
just
19?
like trying to meta chase like that. Especially like with the cost of elixirs and transcendence, it makes no sense to like try and always chase what's meta unless I'm like legit just using like the best card set in the game of the credit cards. Like it just makes no sense to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and all these other take time to decide, right? You can't. I don't think that it makes sense to decide to swap a main or whatever just like that. Like, I think anytime, and this is the reason why. Like, I think if I had been in a situation where I just swap mains just like that, I probably would have name swapped to Breaker maybe like two weeks ago already.
Hmm.
But I know that that's me and that's who I am. I'm that person that likes a new class, sees that new class, and like, all right, it's time. This is it. This is my soulmate right here. But that's like literally the fifth time I said this class is my soulmate right here. So
Yeah.
like I always, give it a couple weeks, give it a month, give it a month and a half, play that class. And it's like if I'm really enjoying that class that much after like that long, then it's like, okay, sure, this is it. So anytime I make a main swap, yeah, it takes a little bit of time to just kind of think about it.
Gotcha, gotcha. I guess final question for you. So all these characters you see pretty much at the bottom are like monkey alts and whatnot that use to farm just like resources on and whatnot. Some of
Mm-hmm.
these do have full sevens. Should I just scrap all of them and just combine them for my mains at this point, or should I just like?
Do you play on them? Do you do guardian raids on them regularly?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, maybe it's not about sevens. Maybe you downgrade them to fives and then do that. But if it's just monkey, I don't think you need sevens on them. But it just depends at the end of the day, right? Because sometimes you might, because it sounds like to me, you might like be the type of person that ends up pushing those classes up eventually, anyways.
Yeah.
So that is a thing. But at the end of the day, like sevens aren't that expensive, right? You can always push them back up to sevens later if you really want to, whatever it may be. If but yeah, I personally think for monkey fives are probably enough. But
Okay.
if you don't want to deal with the process of like transferring all the sevens to your main or whatever, then buying fives, like yeah.
Gotcha.
And let's see.
Okay.
Famous Mister says, look at the market too. So it's just depends on the market, right? Like if it's like a cheap time to buy gems, maybe it then it could be worth it to be like, okay, I'm pushing these I'm gonna push all my sevens to my main, and I'll just buy cheap fives or something like that. Like timing for that also matters. I think at the moment, like, do I think having the sevens on there isn't the worst thing in the world. But if you do think that you're being held back by your gems and things like that, then it might be worth pushing that stuff over to your main and like putting that in there.
Gotcha. That's helpful. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Cool. What else?
Yeah,
Anything
that's
else?
all the. No, I think that's all the questions I have for now. Yeah, it was more so I just needed. I mean, at this point in the game, I feel like it really makes sense to try and finalize down our actual like gold earning roster, especially
Eh,
because things are just getting way too expensive at this point.
I mean, yes, but also like as I feel like we're very similar in the ways that we play Lost Ark. You're gonna find another class that you want to play and push up to your main six later. Don't worry too much about
Yeah,
it. Don't
especially
think
if it's a
about it
new,
too much.
especially if it's a new class. But I think at this point, I
Exactly.
mean, the way I thought about it, right? Like, even if another power pass comes out, like this breaker only got pushed because it got lucky. If it
Mm-hmm.
didn't get lucky, I would have left it at 1540 a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it funded itself. It got a lot of good Asura drops that I sold, so it funded itself pretty well. So I would only at this point, like if a new class comes out, like I also need to make more slots because I don't have slots to put in new characters right now, unless I make like an alt account. So that's why, like, if I were, I mean, honestly, if we were to get another Hyper Express, I think the Paladin goes to top. Like, I
Uh-huh.
think that just makes more sense to me.
Unless
But
a new
the
class
rest of
comes
the,
out and you're like, oh, I want to play this new class.
yeah, but like the only other class I would actually care for right now is a
Yo,
female or a
Oso is lazy.
female
There's a ball.
like gunner
Appreciate it.
support. I would juice right away to the top. So like like an Ana type character, like I would juice straight to the top. Otherwise, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy with like the characters I currently have.
We'll see. We'll
So
see.
I mean,
We'll
we'll see.
see. I mean, again, it's just because I know you and I are so similar in the way that we see, like, play the game and
We're all
like
just
we'll
meta
play
chasers
the
at the end
classes.
of it.
Like it. I mean, it's not even just about meta chase. It's about like seeing a cool class and wanting to just play it and push it up and play it the latest content, right? So it's like, we'll see, we'll see, and that's why I'm like, even though you say right now you will really want to finalize your roster, it's like it's probably going to change at some point down the line. And also, like, as they come out with better and better Makoko Expresses, honing events, whatever it might be, it's going to get easier and easier to catch up new classes to, like, quote, like alt status, basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, main roster status. Because, like, I mean, my breaker went to, like, 1620 very quickly. Like, of course, I spent a good bit of money to get it to 1620, but, like, it got to 1600, like, very effortlessly. So, and
Mm-hmm.
that's in my opinion alt status. Like, so yeah, I think that if you're thinking about your main roster, don't sweat too much on like finalizing your main roster because I think that's always going to change. I think the most important one is going to be your main because that's likely going to be not the one that changes as much, or
Gotcha,
it's going to be
gotcha.
harder to change.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the help.
Yeah, no, this was fun. This was very different from the usual roster reviews that I do. It's like more about like thinking through, like, helping you process your thoughts and like think through
Mhm.
different things. So it was a lot of fun. Thanks for redeeming it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for your help. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right. See you in a bit.
See ya.
Later.